On today's show, Laura Heywood interviews
two of my favorite people. Wesley Taylor and Alex Wyse are here to talk about their web series, Indoor Boys. And this is the point in the show where I usually have a scripted intro with all sorts of interesting facts and deep research. But today, I didn't write one. And I'd like to say it's because I'm just so comfortable with these two that I didn't need to. But the truth is that I'm so obsessed with Indoor Boys that all I did was watch it and 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 watch it. So I didn't do any other research, any other prep for this. You guys, where has this show been all my life? How is it in season 3? And I only am now just hearing about it.
Oh my goodness.
Hi.
Well, thank you. That means a lot.
I'm glad that you're not like, what? You didn't do any research?
No, it's totally okay.
I think it's kind of ideal, the person who sits and watches 3 seasons in a row.
Well, so God, I can't believe I'm going to admit this. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to have time to watch 3 seasons. I didn't realize that these were 5 to 12 minute long episodes. I was expecting 30-minute long episodes, and I was like, I can't watch 3 seasons of TV in the 2 days since we confirmed that this was happening. So I watched the recaps at the beginning of each season, and then I watched all of season 3, and then I was like, oh no, I have to watch all of this right now. And so I got up early this morning so I could watch every episode. I still have half of the last episode of season 2.
Oh my gosh.
Wes, you got here early, so I didn't have time to finish the only episode I haven't watched all the way through. But I felt sort of when there's a show that comes out once a week and you just live for when it's coming out.
Yeah.
And then maybe every once in a while you find a show that is binge-worthy and you actually get to binge it.
Yes.
But you kind of you have to mourn when it's over.
Sure.
I felt like I hit the lottery. I got this entire series all at once, and it felt like such a huge gift. I'm so obsessed with it.
That's so wonderful
sweet
to hear that. Thank you so much. And we really wanted to make something that felt like people could binge it quickly, and it always left you wanting more. You always hopefully want to go to the next episode. And it's succinct. It's right there. It's, the story is just right at the very front of it, and it moves. It's funny. It's, and hopefully meaningful too. So
I also can't believe, I will admit, I had a real prejudice against the word web series.
Sure.
I was not expecting something that looks so beautiful. It has cinematography. Who knew that such a thing could exist in a web series?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I expect a web series to be a couple of people with their iPhone goofing off and being I don't know, let's make something.
Yeah.
And I'm actually a big proponent of that.
Sure.
I have had quote unquote web series of my own where I was I'm not going to wait for the circumstances to be perfect. I can't pay anybody. I'm just going to make something up.
Yeah.
And I think people should do that because that's how you practice and that's how you're ready when you do have the money to get a crew together. But when I watched the first thing I watched was the What Happened on Season 1 episode of Season 2, and then jumped right to the What Happened on Season 2 episode of Season 3. And I was like, this is television. This is as much a TV show as anything on Netflix or Hulu that's original.
Well,
and we don't
you.
call those web series.
Well,
we call those television shows.
It's interesting. I've been making narrative-driven web series content now for a decade.
Sorry to interrupt. I know because I was around Rock of Ages a lot because Tad Wilson is my best friend.
Of course. That's when it all started.
I know.
Yeah.
You and Lauren and Tad did this Rock of Ages
backstage
series.
making these mockumentary sketches backstage in costume, and that was the first time I feel it. I mean, Broadway.com started those vlogs years later. I mean, it was sort of a that's when everyone started doing that. And producers started realizing, hey, we can cash in on content.
Wes has always been at the forefront of things, is what he's trying to say.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is at the beginning. What I'm saying is at the beginning, the web series it wasn't a stigma. Web series was a romantic thing that actors were creating their own work and starting their own narratives and sketches. And I think over time, because it became more and more accessible and more people started doing it, the web series format has a stigma of it. And people are like, oh, that's less than. But if we watch sort of, Broad City, Workaholics, High Maintenance, all these shows that have started on the web and that have transitioned into television. So, yeah.
Well, I apologize on behalf of myself and everyone else who has taken the word web series and been like, yeah, I have enough of that in my life. I mean, I think people do the same thing with social media. Not to make this about me, but I'm going to make it about me for a second.
I mean, but it is your show.
Yeah. It's called the Laura Heywood Show. So.
No, it's called Laura Heywood Interviews. So
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
But there are a lot of people who are like, oh, you're a kid with a Twitter account, instead of somebody who I'm proud of my work. And I don't feel like, I feel like if people just had the opportunity to actually look at what I do, they wouldn't think that anymore. But the challenge of getting people to look at what you do. Yeah. I did a panel at Comic-Con with the cast of The Lightning Thief. And I think there were some people that were surprised that it wasn't like a quote unquote real journalist doing the interview. But I have to say, it was a professional triumph for me, that panel. I felt like I just hit it out of the park. I got a letter from a bunch of the cast members thanking me for being so informed and so loving of their show. I mean, look, I feel a little bit uncomfortable sharing all of that because I feel like I should be more humble, but I'm really proud of my work. Yeah. And I feel like I wish that I had given you guys the benefit of the doubt and invested in it without making assumptions.
But I totally understand it because I think we've had that stigma about web series. Wes and I say that we call it a digital series because it sounds just a little bit better. But we get it, and I think we've used that stigma to challenge ourselves to create something that feels like television, like the kind of television show we would want to watch, And we even take that as far as, there are a lot of people in the show who are in the theater community, even more specifically in the musical theater community. Mm-hmm. I've had people say to me, when are these characters going to sing? And just my answer to that is just never, because that's just not what the world of this show is. And just and not to say there's anything wrong with a musical web series; those can be so wonderful.
It's a different genre,
but it's a different. But we wanted to create something that felt like the kind of show you'd see on Hulu, the kind of show,
Yeah, absolutely.
Why isn't it?
Well,
I mean, I guess that's a rude question.
No, it's
I'm
not.
sure that it's,
No, I don't know. There was a time that we were really trying to sell this and make it into something bigger, but and we, took some really good steps with that actually. But then, one or two things didn't come through, and in the end, we sort of thought, well, at least for right now, at least as of this writing, we thought this is a small story. I'm very happy to let it live where it lives. I want to just give this platform and this length of episode as much dignity as we can. It doesn't necessarily have to be on Netflix in order for it to be something of value or something that has something to say or can entertain you or something that lives in the highbrow section of the New York approval matrix, which is my dream.
Oh my God. Well, I will say I'm so in love with you guys right now.
Thank you.
And I, not that I ever wasn't. I've known you both for a long time and I've always adored you, but this is something really, truly special.
Thank you.
Let's back up a tiny bit because maybe not everybody has binged the entire series in the last 24 hours. So can you tell us? So this will be a two-parter. Mm-hmm. I want to hear about how you guys created this because I know you created it together. You've done the writing, the directing, the casting, I presume. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of these people are your friends and sometimes more than friends.
She's talking about my relationship with Carolee Carmelo.
Wow, I thought that one was confidential, but since you're talking, I don't know. I want to hear how you guys thought of it, created it, and started it. But I think we should start with who the characters are and what the sort of gist of the storyline is, the elevator pitch about, what's Indoor Boys?
This is about Nate and Luke, and you could think of it as a modern-day social media gay odd couple. It's sort of about the gray area between friends and relationships, that friends with benefits, that what are we, what aren't we, how do we navigate this, how do our families fit into this? And so that's a story that Wes and I didn't see
There's
on
a very,
television.
a specifically gay element of your friendships and how a lot of them start off romantic or intimate, sexual, physical, and that blurry line, that gray line, exploring the boundaries of their sort of no boundaries dynamic, which is, I think, specific to gay culture, but also we found that we were really, we were celebrating the fact that we could also tell these universal stories because, a lot of LGBTQ storytelling is about persecution and acceptance, tolerance, HIV, death, illness, and I think that we while we are so grateful and pay homage to the people who came before us, it's also such a blessing to be able to write stories that have nothing to do with those things and that are just universal issues that everyone can relate to. That was a huge accomplishment for us that we felt like we could do that. And the origin for it is I had written these short plays and I was in LA and I was creatively stifled waiting on development for something else I was working on, and Alex was there shooting Bold and the Beautiful, and we were both a little creatively stifled, and I reached out to him and I came over and I was like, rewrite this with me, let's shoot it as a sketch, let's see if it could be the pilot of a narrative or if it's a standalone sketch, let's see what happens. And we shortly realized that it felt like the beginning of a story. So and we kept building off of it.
It all happened very organically. I think when we started this, I had no idea that this would eventually be such a big world, so, something that has so many actors we love and respect as a part of it, and so many crew members and producers, who are just amazing and have added so much. At first it was just let's pass the time.
Yeah.
Let's get through this afternoon and make something fun and funny. And it just kept building on itself. The story kept asking us to do more, and we sort of found it along the way.
Tell me about each of your characters and how you see them.
Well,
actually, should you do each other's? Yeah, I'm gonna have Alex. You describe Luke.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think. Well, can I say also about the characters too?
Oh, yeah.
Just that Wes and I have found that we're really writing into we aren't these characters, but I think these characters are some of the worst aspects of ourselves, and I think that's what makes it really fun to play. I think that's what makes it funnier. So, for instance, was that a terrible segue or a great segue? I'm actually not sure.
Look,
I'll let you hit me later. Okay. So
No hitting, boys.
we're in a fight.
We're in a fight now. Yeah. Let's see. Luke is completely narcissistic, and he is all about his Instagram and all about himself, and often all about his abs, and doesn't really clock how his actions are affecting others, and that's all very funny, though. It sounds a little dark, and it is a little dark, but it's also kind of a riot to watch it all happen and see this person who's so blind to their own narcissism.
Sure. Nate is a neurotic, nervous Nelly who we're just digging at each other's character. We're just judging each other. No,
And now we know that they're based on yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know. I'm really questioning that intro I made. I thought, I was like, this will be really informative.
Rolling up my sleeves right now.
No,
I
I
want
just-
you to look each
Nate
other
is-
in the eye while you say this.
Nate
about
is
each other.
Nate
Look me in the eye.
is
Look me in the eye when you say
scared
this.
of the world around him. He lets his own self-destructive anxiety sort of self-implode, and he sabotages a lot of his opportunities and his growth in life.
You made me sound adorable, though.
Earth to Alex, you're adorable. And so is his character. Also, you totally acted out those characteristics just in the answering this question. Wes was like, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Just so confident,
And I'm
not
sitting
afraid
here
of hurting
sweating.
feelings.
And he's, like,
right?
fully sweating
And
over
Alex
there,
is like, oh my
like,
God,
hiding
what
under the
about that
table.
intro? Did I do it right? He's going to be mad at me. You stumbled over the word narcissistic. You just, I love it. I love it. And I think it's because I could sort of see you guys in this. Not that I think either one of you is these characters, but I know you well enough to have seen a hint of this in your personalities.
Sure.
And what makes it so good is that it is realistic in the sense that they're believable, and it doesn't feel like just a ridiculous premise, but they're over the top enough to feel to make it worth watching and not
like,
just be real life.
Well, if you're going to write a good character, I feel like you can't really judge it. I mean, you have to sort of understand the humanity of that character, and you have to sympathize and love that character, right? So, like, there is this sort of dichotomy of, like, creating these characters based on aspects of ourself that bugs us or bothers us or we find ridiculous, and then embellishing and exaggerating for comedy and pulling those out and trying to, speak the truth to those things that we struggle with, but find it endearing as well in the illustration.
I think part of not judging those characters is allowing them to grow, which is something I really love about what we've done in the series.
Especially season 3.
Yeah.
We really let these characters finally evolve a little bit. I mean, we see Luke sort of crack for the first time behind his, confidence and
that
wall
Instagram
of
filter.
Yeah, sure.
I actually feel sort of like jealous of these characters in the sense that they are such true versions of themselves. And they're archetypes, right? Like, nobody lives their actual life like that. But man, to be that honest and that, like, really, when people who don't care about what anybody else thinks generally pretend they care, they like pretend to be more sympathetic, or people who are so neurotic tend to, put on a brave face or whatever. And I love, there's so much interior monologue here that I think that we've all had in both characteristics. And there were times when I was like, man, I'd love to be able to just actually say that to somebody's face.
Yeah. And I think what's great is, like, people can really find themselves in these different characters. I think people have very different reactions to what happens to that. I mean, even just the other night, I don't think I told you this, Wes, my sister called me and she was like, I love Luke. I like him better than you. What are you
did
doing?
Tell me this, yeah.
Did I tell you this?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how to help you, Stephanie. I don't know what to. She's like, well, I like him better than you. So, what do you want me to do?
Krista, who, we were at the premiere and Krista came up to me. Krista Rodriguez, sorry, who plays my sister, Lacey, on the show. She came out to me after the screening and she was sort of like confronting me about the ending, because I think we had a couple different versions of this ending.
Confronting you about the season 3 ending?
Yes, which I won't tell you.
No.
What happened?
Yeah,
don't spoil it.
Don't spoil it.
We want people to start at season 1. And
you know what? I'm gonna shelf this thing because I just realized that would spoil it.
Okay, got it. But you did shoot more than one ending, and the cast didn't know which ones you were going to use?
Actually, yeah, it was like Sex in the City. We're a lot like Sex in the City.
Yeah. I mean, I could actually kind of see that.
Yeah.
Who plays your other sibling?
Isaac Powell plays my brother Logan.
And Isaac Powell is your
fiance.
Yay!
I love that you did that, because I think that in some ways it's like, oh, weird. But I know that, like, when I found out you guys were dating, I was like, you look exactly the same. Like, you look like you could be related. And I feel like it's such a perfect way to address that, is to be like, yep, yes,
it's
yes,
all,
world.
It's all different kinds. I mean, it's all different kinds of layers, because Krista played, my romantic opposite in the Addams Family, and now she's playing my sister, who is in a sort of slightly unspoken incestuous dynamic with my fiance playing my brother.
Right.
So it's all different kind of complicated layers that are fun.
And I really liked that we could use Isaac in this, and he's so amazing in it, and we could have him as a part of this, but our web series didn't feel like an extension of your relationship. Like, your relationship could live separately from the creative project that is this web series,
Absolutely.
but we could all still work together.
Yeah, totally.
I didn't want this to feel like fan fiction,
Right, exactly.
about their
Oh my
relationship.
gosh. There's got to be that out there.
Wow.
That's
Yikes.
a different.
Yikes,
that's a different
yikes.
episode.
A different radio show.
Yeah.
Of Laura Heywood interviews.
Do you remember when I saw you at a bar? It was Isaac's birthday, and it was at Glass House Tavern, and you walked in, and I was like, "What are you doing here?" And you said, you were like, "It's my boyfriend's birthday," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's also that kid Isaac Powell's."
Oh my God, I don't remember this, but I love that story.
Oh, I know, and you were like, "Yeah, that's my boyfriend."
Amazing.
So funny.
Okay, so this was season 3. It didn't feel like a button on the end of something. It felt like you can't make something this bingeable and not have me ask, when do we get season 4? Instead, I'll rephrase. Is it safe to assume that the series will continue?
It's not safe to assume. We're still sort of figuring out what the world of Indoor Boys
looks like.
Do I need to start a GoFundMe right now?
I mean, sure.
It's honestly, we feel like there is a beginning, middle, and end to what we have. We do feel like you could sort of have some closure after season 3, and the audience can kind of make up their own ending.
And I also agree with that face that you're making right now.
You're making a face right now that also we're interested in seeing where it could go potentially, or perhaps we have a special episode where it's like a
very special episode.
We've been tossing ideas back and forth about what that looks like, but also Alex and I are interested in telling news stories and building on this creative collaboration and different mediums. We're very interested in a film next, I think,
and not an Indoor Boys film.
I think a whole new thing, and then perhaps after that we would do another season of Indoor Boys. So we're not really sure yet. We just know that we want to keep expanding what we can make with each other.
This is exactly why to own your own work, and makes me feel kind of gross about having asked, like, how come it's not on Hulu? Like,
oh no, it's
gross,
okay.
Laura,
well,
gross.
No,
like,
I mean, we also would love to make money, That's the thing.
Don't get us wrong. And also, you asking why isn't on Hulu is a great compliment to us, because what you're saying is that it deserves to be. So I mean,
it is so.
We appreciate that.
It is so high quality, and I should have just said that.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I think that
we're not offended by that.
But you can do it. You can do another season 5 years from now. You could do another season 20 years from now, and like you could do another season that starts filming tomorrow, and you get to decide. And as somebody who strives for authenticity over finances and over branding, like, good for you. Do whatever the fuck you want. Part of my language, So good on you.
I think we're also. I mean, there's something like quite pure and beautiful, I think, about how simple the Indoor Boys concept is. But we're also interested in higher concept stories. I think that we want to explore
that means like a higher concept would be instead of like a character study. It'd be like these characters live on the moon. High concept meaning something like that.
Which is
Indoor Boys goes outer space.
Which feels like the next logical step. I would say,
of course.
That was my prediction for season 4.
If we want to keep doing this as as creative collaborators, and we want to eventually sort of, make a living doing this alone, perhaps, then we have to sort of keep exploring the avenues that we can go down that are marketable, that we think that we can sustain. And we love Indoor Boys, and we had to keep telling that story. But it is a character study. It's not as it's not as easy to market as a high concept pitch. So we're exploring all the different avenues, but.
Good. So this is not the end of the.
It's not the end, but it is
the Wyse Taylor.
No. This is
no.
This is the beginning of the Wyse Taylor relationship, and this is a pause on Indoor Boys. And I would say that it speaks to something good about the show is that I feel like even though the story is not finished, the story has an arc to it. So I think it will be a satisfying experience to watch all 3 seasons together.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you from experience that that's the case. And, I don't like it when things are too buttoned up at the end of a series anyway.
Because that's not life, right?
Well, yeah. And also it's because I like the opportunity to imagine.
Yeah, of course.
And to I've never. I was going to say I've never actually written fan fiction. I may have when I was really, really little. I may have written some like New Kids on the Block, like I Go on tour with them fan fiction.
Sure.
Before that was really and just for myself as an audience of one. But I like the opportunity to do that in my brain and be like, I wonder what these guys are up to now, and decide. I've had conversations with people. I go to the theater and you go like, what do you think they decided? And when one person thinks one thing and the other thinks another, and you get to debate about, no, they gave this clue and this scene, and and you get to sort of game it out as if these were real people with real lives. That's a sign that you've really written something that is super compelling.
Thanks.
I'm not giving you an excuse not to make season 4.
No, I
though.
totally hear you. But it was really cool. After our screening a few nights ago, we had our big premiere screening.
I
which
know,
was,
and I really, really wanted to come, but I had something else that I couldn't cancel.
That's okay. You still saw the season, so we're
That's
happy.
right.
But after that, I went out with a few friends to just drink and decompress. I hadn't slept in 2 days, and I just kind of sat there and listened, and everybody around me was debating what happened to these characters and who they sided with and what they thought the intentions were. It was kind of an incredible moment. I couldn't believe that, unprompted by me, they were talking about these characters like they were real people, and they were invested in, and people were picking sides, and people were imagining what happens next, and did he really say that, and did that really happen, or was that part of the fantasy? I don't know.
It's very rewarding, yeah.
It was a really cool moment.
Have you developed an audience outside of the Broadway community on this?
I think so.
Yeah.
I will say it's very satisfying to get identified on the street for Indoor Boys.
I bet.
Because unlike
Instead
the usual
for being
Is
a
Smash or
one-celled
whatever,
creature
I mean, based on our acting careers, to be recognized for something that you created and that someone discovered who has no connection to the Broadway world is so cool. It feels so great, It feels like we've had an impact, beyond our 10 blocks.
Yeah.
And also something that we made, it's beyond something we got cast in, but it's something that we made. It's a story that we wanted to tell. So if somebody sees that, and I mean sees it in a heart kind of way, that means a lot.
I've had plenty of a barista be like, "Oh my God, I love Indoor Boys," and it's that is the best feeling in the world.
Right. Whereas if somebody comes up and says something about a project that maybe wasn't your favorite thing, or feels like it was a long time ago, they're not seeing you in the same way.
Yeah.
For me, I get recognized just within those 10 blocks, and only every once in a while. When somebody goes, "I love your interviews," oh my God. That's my purpose in life, is to use this penchant I have for extreme enthusiasm and get to know people better, and to let other people get to know them and me better. And while I love it when people think my tweets are funny, it's not the same as being seen as somebody who can do an interview like nobody else.
Well, a lot of the time, if you're in a Broadway show, or if you're somewhat relevant in the moment or in the community, people are going to be watching your content anyway, and they're going to be devouring anything that's online, and they're excited by the content because it has to do with this property that they love and you and in the moment. But when that goes beyond that, and they are just naturally seeking out the content because they enjoy the content, it has nothing to do with your persona on Broadway or what you're doing in the moment. It's actually our story has permeated and impact people beyond our community. That's really exciting.
I feel like I'm about to cry. I feel weirdly proud of you, like a big sister or a mama.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
We're very tired.
I bet you are. Do you want to take a pause and get you some coffee?
No, that was just for the listeners to know that we're really.
Yeah.
When did you finish wrapping this?
About an hour before the screening.
An hour before the screening.
Stop it.
No, we're serious.
Not
That's
kidding.
That's when you finished the edit?
Yes.
It was a 6 month.
What?
I'm telling you, we pulled all-nighters leading up to the screening.
So you set up the screening before it was done and just made it a hard deadline.
Well,
yes.
we had an edit deadline that we met, but then you have to realize it's not over because it has to be colored. It has to have a final sound pass. It has to have.
What? I don't know about what any of those things mean.
Well, when you film. When you film something, you kind of film it in a desaturated. It looks all desaturated. There are not a lot of colors. It's closer to the grayscale because then you add color to it after, and it gives you more control over what colors you want to add to the frames.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So then you can kind of pick your look very deliberately instead of we filmed it and these walls look brown, so they're going to be brown. It's
It's a lot about matching light. If you shot a scene during 2 different times of the day because of your actor limitations or whatever, you have to match night for day. And
that's been a big thing for us.
Yeah.
Something low budget and working with so many actors, many of whom are working on a lot of different projects, we've had to accommodate schedules left and right. And because of that, one side of the conversation will have blue light and the other side will have pink light. And it's...
But if you shoot it in almost grayscale, then you can...
Then we can control that a little bit more and make it look like we're all in the same room at the same time together.
There was an episode in season 2 where
God, it killed us.
We shot
4 different days for
4 different days.
one scene.
And all the actors were shooting without the other people in the scene.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Yeah, we were putting X's on the wall.
Wait, what episode was this?
Should we reveal it? Yeah, whatever.
It's going to just make people watch,
I guess season 2, episode
6.
6. So that would be chapter 14?
14? Yeah.
Okay.
There was Frankie Grande season 2.
Yeah, there was a moment, one of the scenes where it's a lot of people looking at each other, and each one of those shots happened on a different day because of actor availability.
Wow. And then there's scenes where 20 people are having dinner together.
Yeah.
Well, we actually got through that one in 6 hours with the whole cast.
I was going to say, just you would have had to.
Yeah.
Because you can't get all of those people to have schedules that work.
Right. Some things we can afford to put in different shots, and we can, but some things you got to be here on this day or we can't cast you. You know.
It's like we had the party episode in season 3, and that's got 20 bodies in it, and we had to shoot it over the course of 6 hours one night.
6 hours? No. That went from 5 p.m. until 3 a.m.
6 to 2 or
real 6 p.m. to 2. So
6 p.m. they were called. 7 p.m. we were on camera, and
God.
we wrapped at 2.
2, yeah, okay.
I love watching
that one nearly killed
this
us.
Conversation and listening to it. It's so real. It's so okay, I see your dynamic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well. I just think God, I just die for authenticity. I just love it.
Oh.
I love it.
Well, here we are.
Thanks for coming in and being your real selves.
Oh, no,
we still have 27 more minutes. So,
well, we have a lot. We have a lot of things we can talk about.
Well, can we talk about the 2 things that I'm most fascinated about the series, and we can go beyond talking about the series too. I mean, I don't know how much you want me to fangirl out about Spring Awakening and SpongeBob, but I will. But I'm fascinated by the guest stars and the locations. I think that it was the apartments and the houses and stuff, and that made me go, this is for real. This was not shot in a dorm room.
Weren't those beautiful places?
Yes. How in the world did you find them?
Well, I'll tell you, this is also part of the way the series was developed, is when I went out to LA to do The Bold and the Beautiful, that, I can say this, I guess, that first season apartment was my Airbnb.
Wow.
I know, it was so slick, wasn't it? It was the coolest place in the world. And so when we wrote that script, I remember one of the conversations was, okay, what if, I remember our first idea was okay, what if, because it's kind of it starts off as a very mundane conversation about social media and liking things, and soon expands well beyond that, but that's how it begins. And we were thinking, okay, what if part of the conversation is on the treadmill, and then the next one we're in the park, and then we're boating, and kind of the comedy of it is that it's a continuous conversation in
Many
6
different
locations. So that was an idea that we had of how we can make this feel cinematic. So we were trying to logistically figure this out, and soon realized we could not logistically figure this out. So I was I don't know, let's just film it in this cool place I'm staying.
And
do
also,
you have to ask the owner of the Airbnb before you do that?
We asked them after we filmed it. We filmed it first, and then we were oh, by the way, would it be okay if... And then they were fine with it.
But also, this is before it was called Indoor Boys. So
Right.
Originally, it was called Little Monsters, and it was about digital natives in the information age who are sort of millennial monsters in their tablets, who are unable to connect.
I would have assumed that was a Lady Gaga fan series.
It wasn't not a Lady Gaga fan series.
That's right.
Fair enough.
But the Indoor Boys title really comes from the fact that we were okay, we're shooting this in an apartment, and wouldn't it be funnier if we explored these these gay guys who won't leave the apartment, who are stuck in the apartment, and
in fact, I so regret we go onto the balcony.
Yeah.
That's one of my regrets about the series, seeing how it developed. But whatever,
in episode 3 of the first season, we go on the balcony, which we are having regrets because we just love the fact that they're indoors and that they can't sort of come out of
that
doors.
balcony is.
I mean, it's still
It was
indoors.
so
I mean, it's connected
magnificent,
to
wasn't
the.
it?
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I wonder why they called it this. And then I thought, well, what's the opposite would be outdoor boys. And I think about like what's an outdoor boy, and it's like someone who goes hiking and camping. And can you imagine two people less likely to go camping
exactly.
and hiking is these two guys?
That's
right.
true. I mean,
Like-
thankfully, I think the title still works. The idea still works. But,
of course,
But
yeah.
you know, if I were to go back and do a rewrite of the beginning of the season, I would set that in a different place. But that's okay. I think every series kind of learns its rules as it goes along.
Absolutely.
But I think probably by episode 4, we had maybe shot episode 4, and then we started releasing them, and we thought of the title Indoor Boys. So it really happened organically, and it was all kind of circumstantial at first. You know, well, I guess we just won't leave because it's free to be in this space.
And also, the first season, we were sort of doing it like 3 episodes at a time, and we were sort of figuring it out and sort of listening to the online fan base that was slowly growing and like what they wanted to see more of, and sort of figuring out the voice of the show and who these characters were. But
We didn't know what was going to
Yeah.
go down. We just thought these were sketches at first.
But then, and we were in LA together, and we were writing it together and editing it together and sort of like shooting it as it was happening. You know, we would do like 2 at a time. You know, but then the following season, I had moved back to New York doing SpongeBob, and he was still in LA, and so then we were like writing it on opposite coasts, and we're planning it because you know, we want to do a second season, but I have a year contract, and we sort of figure out this time that we can shoot it for 2.5 weeks in New York. And he flew to New York, and we shot it in 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
Around the 8-show schedule.
And you'd written the entire season.
Yes, beforehand.
Yeah.
So that was very different than the first season when we were taking it, you know, a couple episodes by a couple episodes at a time. And then the third season, same thing. We had to plan it way in advance, and then we shot like over 100 pages in 8 days for the third season, which was highly ambitious and
Maybe a mistake.
Perhaps too much of a.
I mean, you got through it. You created something beautiful.
I mean, by a hair, we got through it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
really, really hard.
We learned a lot this season.
Doing hard things is the only way you know what you're capable of.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you for doing that. Anybody can do easy things. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But you guys are taking risks and pushing yourselves, and that's how you grow stronger. You get better.
And by making the mistakes that we've made, that's how we grow stronger. You know, we learned from, okay, this is how you should plan a shoot. this is
exactly.
Things like that. This is where we should have set the third episode. You know, things like that. But we're not going to learn unless we
need
make
to
them.
schedule breaks for, you know, we need to, like, there's a lot of production stuff that because you're wearing 27 different hats, you sometimes are neglecting to remember every consideration for every person on set, and you really have to. I mean,
So speaking of that, like the names that you've gotten for this project are remarkable. And a lot of them have been nominated for awards for their guest starring roles and stuff. Did you have to like go through, you were talking about not having breaks and stuff. How did you go around like the unions or did you?
Well, we worked with the unions on the, you know, we started off a little more modest, but then by the third season this was in accordance with SAG, and, you know, we did all the paperwork, which was challenging, you know, but we wanted to really do this kosher. And what was the rest of the question?
No, I mean I'm curious how you chose the actors. Was it traditional casting?
There's no auditions for this thing. We're
just sending text.
We're
You were just like,
definitely
"Krista,
using.
come play my
I mean,
sister."
we're definitely using our respective phone books on our contacts.
Makes me want to steal your phone.
Well, these are all people that we love and respect, and we've worked with, and we want to collaborate with. I mean, that's one of the best things about this project, is that it's an excuse to play with all the people that you want to play with, and you get to create the storytelling around it. And it's an embarrassment of riches, because I think at this point people trust us, and they're saying yes because they know they're going to be a part of something that's rewarding, which is so flattering and amazing. And
what's nice too is we can write for the people in our phone books. We really do that.
Yeah.
For example, I
love that you're using the word phone book.
in my Rolodex.
Yeah.
For example, our two mothers, my mom played by Carolee Carmelo and Wes's mother played by Vianne Cox, those roles were written for them.
Yeah.
Those were for them.
The moms? are
the best part of the show.
amazing.
They're the best part. Oh, I think they're.
You guys are the
genius.
best part of the show.
I truly think they're geniuses.
I do think they could have a spin-off.
For sure.
And if
I
you
agree.
guys were ready to do, what would we call it? I love
Indoor
how I've
moms.
inserted myself into it. I'm
No,
like, I'm
please.
part of the team now. Yeah, I mean, no, indoor moms. Is that what you said?
Yeah, well, that's what it
No.
was. A fan did a sketch, and she called it Indoor Moms.
Oh, I love that as like
she
a
won
fan
the fan
fiction
contest.
title.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to see them. I want to see the watercolors. I want to see the,
We wrote
the
we wrote a
pashminas.
great scene for them where they take which obviously didn't get shot, but it was in one of our longer pilot versions of this, where they go to a furniture store together, and that was such a wonderful scene.
Oh yeah.
Remember
oh my
that?
God, yes.
That scene
yes.
was wonderful. I loved it, but that obviously didn't come to fruition. But we really are trying to. Let's see. In terms of casting, I can tell you, it's important to us that we get people who excite us. It's important to us that we get a cast that feels diverse. Mm-hmm. Even within, Wes's family, his siblings are played by. It's 3 people of 3 different races, and I love that. I absolutely love that. It's something like that.
Yeah. Both
so
Krista and I are half Hispanic, and Isaac is half black, and
Yeah.
we have. Those are, just within our families, but then we really tried this year with our guest starring cast and our recurring to be more inclusive. Mm-hmm. And
it's something that's important to us.
for
and
sure.
So,
And I think very important is that, you're not only casting fancy faces and names that everyone loves and wants to see, but people who are down to play and who are down to, like, roll up their sleeves and, like, improv and
my gosh.
No, it's serious, because a lot of people, if they're fancy but then they just treat it like an obligation, it's like we would rather them not do it. We want to clown with our friends who love collaboration and who want to be doing this
and who want to be creative with us,
Yeah.
who want to make up some new jokes with us on set. And
I was gonna say that to me, like, I think my favorite. Do you know what I'm gonna say?
Josh Lehman.
Well, I wasn't gonna. I was
Kathy
gonna.
Fitzgerald?
No, I was gonna get to Josh specifically, but I was gonna say my favorite, like, sort of moment / arc / I don't know what you call it, sequence, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Is the I was gonna say auditions, the interviews for the roommates.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, I know him. Oh my gosh, I know him. Oh my gosh, they got him. They got her. And every single one was so funny. It felt so. Like, I thought about improv, and, like, I could imagine you guys sitting there having written some stuff or just given, sort of character sketches to these people
Yeah.
and let them come in and give what they could give. And just in that one sequence, you have. It's like a highlight reel of
Yeah.
guest stars, except they're all in the same 3 minutes of your
That's
show.
right.
It's
Surprisingly,
like-
most of what you'll see is completely scripted. But there are some people like Josh Lehman.
I was gonna say.
He comes in and we have what we've scripted, of course, which we do a few takes of.
But
then
we asked Josh Lehman to do it because we knew he would.
Yeah,
do
exactly. And then
this.
we're just like, okay, now we're gonna do a few takes of just action and just start talking, Josh.
Yeah.
And then we're we're in the editing room.
It was so good
and
you had
just-
to put an extra moment after the credits with
Yes.
Josh.
Yeah, I mean, we had to. He's so funny
and
and,
it's just
creative.
that's one of the joys of editing someone like Josh Lehman, is because then you're watching all of this footage and you're picking your favorite sort of improv moments and slicing together our favorite little ad libs and
I'm always fascinated by how writing teams do it. I've never met 2 writing teams that do it the same way. I'm curious whether you guys have a system. Do you mostly, Wes, do you mostly write Luke, and Alex, you mostly write for your character, do you get together and be like, okay, we have an office, this is our writing procedure, or do you literally just sort of be like, what if he said this next, and what if he said that next?
Well, there are a lot of different things that happen, but I think what we do is we start off by, storyboarding the season together and agreeing where these characters are going to go. And then usually, I think, in broad terms, I would say Wes is often the one who starts, and I'm often the one who finishes. And within that, Wes, talk.
yeah. So I think that we have different strengths, and our strengths and weaknesses sort of work really well together, and we make each other better writers. I really do believe that.
Me too.
But we definitely have different strengths in the fact that I am good at structure and situational comedy. Alex is a great joke writer. He doesn't just write Nate, and I don't just write Luke. We've sort of figured out the voice of the other character. And he's right. I typically start the draft, and he typically does the second pass of the draft, and it's
been a lot of different things. There have been a lot of different, we have no one rule for it. Like, I think, there have been a couple things, too, that I've started.
Yeah.
And there have been some brilliant jokes that Wes has written. So, I mean, I think
the more specific you get with the characters and the more you learn each other's vernacular and worlds, it just starts getting easier to speak the same language. And all of a sudden you're like, I forgot who wrote that joke, And
You do it
I
so
actually
well
don't
that.
remember.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say yes to that I don't remember who wrote most of our scripts, because I feel like we both have ownership over all of it.
Yeah.
You did such a good job of developing a recognizable language and tone that after having watched all 3 seasons, except for the last half of that last episode of
But you
season
kind of
2.
saw it in the recap for season 3.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, you see like what happens, but
But I left my apartment this morning acting like somebody from this world.
Aw.
I ran into a friend it actually looked like a scene from a TV show, because we both had our wireless headphones on, we both had our heads down looking at our phones, and we were about to run into each other on a tree-lined street full of brownstones in Chelsea. And I looked up and I was like, we both go to the same gym and we both work for the same nonprofit, and this is too much information, but like the gym we're going to is about to do a thing where every month they give money to a nonprofit. So I was like, hey, buddy. And he put his one headphone off, and I put one headphone off. And I was like, did you submit Story Pirates to MFF yet? And he was like, I have not. And I was like, I have not either, but we are going to coordinate on that. Okay, bye, babe. And then we both put our headphones back on and kept walking and immediately put our heads back down in our phones. I don't know that in my reenactment, it will be...
But I understand what you're saying: clipped, clever, succinct, and social media driven.
I mean, I was like, where did this voice come from? Where did this strut come from? And I was like, I think I'm kind of being Luke.
Amazing.
But I also am the kind of person where if I hang out with somebody from Georgia, I start to talk with a little bit of
you're
a
a little
southern
chameleon.
accent.
It's your empathy.
Yeah, I really think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is. I also I've been trying to write a memoir for 3 years, and I do the best when I listen to memoir audiobooks read by the author, and then I come back and I end up writing a chapter that sort of sounds like they could have written it. It's about my life, but it's like there's sentence structure and.
Sure.
It's actually a great tool for writing too. I think when Wes and I are writing, I mean, I know that I'm watching a lot of TV programs or movies that feel like they live in the world of our show too. Yeah. Things that can inspire me, give me ideas, or when I'm editing, all I look at is editing in a television show. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's where they cut on that line. That's interesting. And that tells this story. And then I can kind of bring that into my own work. It's, the concept of stealing like an artist, I think, is part of what you're talking about.
It's like immersive dramaturgy.
Beautiful.
I love that. I love that. I love you guys.
Well, we love you too.
I'm just so glad that you're here. What are you comfortable talking about? What else you're working on right now?
Sure.
I hate asking people that, because especially since so many performers and writers are between projects, and that is such a respectable place to be in the kind of business that we're in. Yeah. And I do want to celebrate the work that that it has been done, Anyway, if you're comfortable talking about any other projects, I want to be able to give voice to those as well.
Creatively, like we discussed, Alex and I would like to start working on an independent film. Mm-hmm. And we've discussed many ideas about that, but just, separate from our creative collaboration, I'm going to be doing Assassins in the spring at Classic Stage Company.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait.
Which I'm very excited about. And
remind me who you're playing.
Giuseppe Zangara.
Right.
Yeah. The Italian immigrant who attempted to assassinate FDR.
Are you digging into like historical research, doing any immersive dramaturgy?
I've like just started. I mean,
Yeah.
we're 6 months away from rehearsal, so yeah, that's sort of next. I told you about
Some other stuff. Yeah.
that
will
hopefully will be announced soon, and then.
Oh man, listeners are gonna hate us.
Yeah, well, that's part of it, making them hate us.
That's not part of my thing. I just want everybody to like me.
Oh.
I walk
Me
around
too.
assuming everyone's secretly mad at me anyway. So
We're alike in
Yeah.
that way. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and good thing I walked out of my apartment acting like Luke instead of acting like Nate today, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do this show. I would have been like, I don't know, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I get. It's funny to. Sorry, back on Indoor Voice for a second.
Look,
It's weird to put on my director's hat, but also have the Nate hat on because Nate is so insecure.
Yeah, you're directing yourself in a lot of these episodes.
Yeah, and a lot of times I'm responsible for other actors and crew members on the set, and it's challenging for me to play Nate and then switch over to being a confident person who can lead a group of people creatively.
And I would also add to that Luke can be pretty insensitive to other people, so a lot of times if I'm playing Luke a lot, that can also bleed into the way that I have a bedside manner with other people. And I have to remember to practice empathy and sympathy and compassion.
I feel like I want to watch a bunch of Luke scenes right before I go on like a first date, so that I can go out and be like,
Put your armor on, yeah.
You're lucky to be with me.
Yeah.
And if this doesn't work out, bad on you, instead of me
That's
going
right.
and being like, one of me doesn't like me,
Right.
It's that's really interesting.
But we all have our shields, though. I mean, like, that's a shield for Luke, just like Nate has his own walls up.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, of course. And it was nice to see a little crack in that shield at the end of season 3. There was one scene where, Alex, you listed off, like, I can't remember what season it was, but you listed off, like, every imperfection. Nate listed every imperfection that he saw with his own face.
Yeah,
Was that at the very beginning? Beginning of season 3?
Yeah.
It was an early episode for me.
It's the first episode back in season 3,
Yeah.
and we're talking about, I'm posting a lot of pictures of us as a new couple,
Right.
which is, terrifying to Nate. And
he's like, you have to Facetune this, and my forehead's too big, and da-da-da.
I'm trying to remember it now.
Did you insist on writing that part yourself?
I wrote that.
monologue,
Yeah, I was going to say if Wes came to you and was like, I wrote this monologue with you, and you're like,
no,
it's
Alex
all
does,
physical things.
Alex does write sort of the best insults for Nate.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah. I mean, not to say that I don't get a few digs in there.
Not to say Wes doesn't have his words for me.
But he has a knack at really making fun of himself in all ways that he could.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Who writes the hilarious non sequiturs that almost go by so fast you don't hear them? I guess you said you don't really remember who writes what, but there's so many moments. I can't think of any exact ones, but I was like, there's another one where you think somebody's going to say one thing and then they say something completely like...
For example, a quick line in the party, somebody says, Vasti Mom Point.
Yeah.
She says, so I wake up in the middle of 7-Eleven, completely covered in lube, and they're out of vitamin water.
Yes, exactly like that. Where you're like, oh, that took a turn, and
we had
hilarious.
We had a party episode where we wanted it to feel like the most stressful, busy, noisy thing in Nate's mind, and it was just like adding more and more stress and confusion. And so we
jokes,
plenty of jokes, but also we just wanted some really random sound bites that were going to be just partygoers passing by to add to the confusion and frustration. And we had a lot of different versions of these one-liners, and some of them did not make the cut because they were just too offensive.
We'll tell you one when we get off the air.
Yeah,
oh
exactly.
no, you're making people hate us again.
Well,
Oh no, sorry.
No, we
won't
can't
tell
we
you
can't
one
get
when we get off
canceled. Yeah. So no, we had so many different versions of those one lines.
I also want to know that, like, how in the world have I been sleeping on Michael Tachioni?
Taccone.
It's Taccone.
Taccone.
Yeah. Oh, isn't he wonderful?
Yeah,
Michael Taccone.
He's very good.
This is when I wish I could edit.
Oh, that's okay.
But
it's
like,
okay.
I don't even know his name. That's
Isn't
how
he's such a beautiful actor.
That's
great.
right.
Like
And
a beautiful
He's
man.
a beautiful human being, but he is sort of like a non-archetype guy. He sort of breaks with what you expect, and I feel like he's acting in a in a realistic drama while you guys are acting in like a cartoon.
So true. It's so funny. It's
well said.
but somehow still works. I mean,
Yeah,
I will
exactly.
say that when we're editing, he's one of the most reliable people to edit. I mean, there's rarely a bad take. He's very honest and
he's
very
beautiful.
simple.
How
He's
do you
very
know
easy
him?
to edit.
I was in Bear, the musical,
Oh,
with,
yeah.
with Taccone.
I didn't realize he was in that.
Yeah, we both played small roles in the show, but the two of us understudied Peter and Jason, the leads, and so we did all of the understudy rehearsals together, and became friends, but also developed like this very sweet kind of relationship because we do all these like love scenes in rehearsal together.
Is he a
so
good kisser?
yes, yes, he is a very good kisser, but he's just the loveliest person, and when we were thinking of who can play this very earnest, beautiful boy,
Somebody who's believable as a TV star,
Yeah.
but also believable as a gentle, loving,
the most
authentic-
humble TV star you've ever
Yeah,
met.
exactly.
Exactly,
Does
and
that
someone-
actually exist in real life?
it might.
I know a few.
Yeah.
It might, yeah. And we wanted someone who could have access to the same kind of neuroses that Nate has, so they could really connect there.
Or at least be totally smitten by the neuroses that
Oh,
Nate
yeah, yeah.
has.
It's a good way to put it.
Because I don't find them to be the cut from. I think Walker, who is
Yeah.
introduced in season 3, is cut from the same cloth as Nate. They are both very nervous and neurotic.
I felt like that
Whereas-
actor might have just watched a bunch of Nate scenes.
Yeah.
And
well, he's got a a nervous
because
vibe to him, and
it's almost like you're doing that old drama school, like drama class mirroring exercise where the tics
Meisner.
are the same
Yeah.
and the hesitations in the voice are the same.
Total
that
Meisner
speaks to
exercise.
how good Daniel K.
Well,
Isaac
Yeah,
especially
he's
when he
fantastic.
doesn't look anything like you. I
Right.
think sometimes there's this trope in TV where they'll cast somebody who's so clearly,
Right.
the doppelganger,
Right.
and you manage to get that same approach by casting somebody who is physically your opposite.
We got very lucky.
Yeah.
I think all these boys are so incredible in the
Yeah.
show.
I mean, don't sell yourself short. I sometimes have a problem with the idea of lucky because it takes away from the idea that you earned it.
yeah.
Well, thank you. We worked hard. We really tried to guide them and, help everyone get on the same page. So, so to not diminish our contribution, we did write those words that they say.
Yeah.
And, but I think that we're just I think we're fortunate that these wonderful actors have signed on to do this with us. But yeah, that Michael Taccone, that Daniel K. Isaac, whoo, Kyle Harris too. He's another I'm crazy about.
I mean, we are just about out of time, and
No.
we would run out of time if we tried to list all of the amazing people that you work with. Let me just say that it's an all-star cast. You guys have done amazing work. I'm mad that there isn't a season 4 for me to watch right this moment, but I'm going to go back and watch the whole series again. I'm obsessed with you. I'm obsessed with Indoor Boys. You can come back and hang out with me anytime, on or off
Thank
the
you
air.
for having us.
This is so fun.
I love
Thank
you.
you.
And
Thank you.
indoorboys.tv, indoorboys.tv. God, that's hard to say multiple
Yeah,
times in a row.
it is.
Indoorboys.tv. You want good people to be making great work, and that's what this is. So it
Thank
gets
you.
the Laura Heywood Award for Don't Call It a Web Series.
Oh, I've been waiting for that award.
Congratulations, boys.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Bye.
Bye. Yay.